My name is Robert Eugene Castillo, Staff Sergeant, Bravo Company, 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne Division. I was 24 years old in May of 1969. I am 79 years old now, and I have spent 55 years trying to decide whether to say what I'm about to say. I've decided I'm running out of time to keep quiet. Most people who know Hamburger Hill know the number. 10 days, 10 assaults, Dong Ap Bia Mountain, 72 Americans killed, 372 wounded. They know the name came from the way the mountain chewed men up and spit them back down. What they don't know, what has never been in any account I have ever read, is the order that came down on the morning of May 18th. The order that sent 6 of my men directly into a prepared kill zone that we had already identified, already reported, and been told to assault anyway. I need you to understand the terrain first, because without it, nothing else makes sense. Dong Ap Bia rises 937 meters out of the A Shao Valley, 11 kilometers from the Laotian border. The jungle on those slopes isn't like jungle anywhere else. It is layered. Triple canopy overhead so thick that air support couldn't see the ground and we couldn't see the sky. The undergrowth below it so dense that visibility dropped to 4 or 5 meters in any direction, and the NVA, the 29th Regiment, had been on that mountain for months. They knew every fold in the ground, every natural funnel, every approach route. They had fortified bunkers built from 8-inch logs with 2 feet of earth overhead. Direct hits from artillery rounds were not destroying them. We were assaulting uphill through jungle we couldn't see through against positions that couldn't be destroyed from the air. Every single day. My squad had been on that mountain since the 15th. By the 18th, we had already made 3 assaults on the upper slope. 3 times we had pushed up through that jungle, taking fire from bunkers we couldn't locate until we were 10 meters away. 3 times we had pulled back, carrying our wounded and our dead. On the morning of the 18th, I reported something specific to my platoon commander, Lieutenant David Marsh, a good man from Tennessee, 23 years old. I told him that the draw on the northeastern approach, the 1 battalion was planning to use for the next assault, had been pre-registered by the NVA. I had seen the fire pattern the previous afternoon, mortar rounds, walking in at 15-meter intervals along the exact approach route. They had ranged it. They were waiting for a column to move through it. It was a kill zone, prepared and ready. Marsh took my report seriously. He escalated it immediately. It went up to company command within the hour. I know this because Marsh told me directly, looked me in the eye and said, "I put it up the chain, Castillo." They heard it. The order came back down at 0800. Assault the northeastern draw. Move out at 0900. I stood there holding that order, and I felt something I had never felt before in combat. It wasn't fear. I knew fear by then. This was different. This was the specific cold feeling of understanding that the men around you are going to die, and the decision has already been made by someone who will never set foot on that slope. I pulled my squad together, 6 men plus myself. I told them what I knew. I did not lie to them, did not soften it. I told them the draw had been pre-registered and we were going in anyway. I told them to move in a dispersed file, maximum spacing, hug the left tree line as far as possible, move fast, and don't bunch up under any circumstances. It was the only thing I could give them. We stepped off at 0900. The first mortar round hit at 0902. It landed precisely in the center of the draw at exactly the spacing I had seen the previous afternoon. Exactly. They had set their tubes the day before and waited. The second round came 11 seconds later. The third 9 seconds after that. In 4 minutes, I lost 6 men. Thomas Riley from Pittsburgh, 20 years old. Carlos Mendez from San Antonio, 22. Frank Dabowski from Chicago, 19. James Earl Tatum from Memphis, 21. Philip Weston from Portland, 23. And Daniel Cho from Los Angeles, 20 years old. 6 men whose names I have written in a notebook every single morning for 55 years. I pulled the survivors back down the slope. I had shrapnel in my left shoulder and didn't know it until we reached the casualty collection point. Marsh was there. He looked at me and he couldn't hold my eyes. He looked at the ground and he said, "I'm sorry, Castillo." That was all. 2 words. Because there was nothing else to say. I submitted a formal written account of the pre-registration observation, the report I had made, and the order that overrode it. I submitted it through proper channels at Marsh's direction 3 days later when the battle was still ongoing. I was told it would be included in the after-action documentation. It was not. In 1974, after I had left the Army and gone back to El Paso, I filed a Freedom of Information request for the Operational Orders and Communications log from Bravo Company on May 18, 1969, between 0600 and 1000 hours. The request came back 6 months later. The communications log for that specific window was classified. Not the whole document, just that window. 90 minutes of radio traffic on the morning, 6 men died in a draw that had been reported as a kill zone. 90 minutes. I filed again in 1989, classified, again in 2003, still classified. My congressman's office made an inquiry in 2009. They were told the material contained information still sensitive to national security in 2024. 55 years later, 6 boys who died on a hillside in Vietnam are still a national security matter. I have my own theory about why, not about the NVA or the tactical situation, about what that communications log contains. I believe it shows that the report of pre-registration was received, acknowledged, and overridden by someone above company level for reasons that had nothing to do with tactical necessity. I believe it shows that the assault order on the northeastern draw on the morning of May 18th was driven by timeline pressure from above, by a need to show progress on Hamburger Hill to MACV headquarters in Saigon. By numbers, by the appearance of offensive momentum at a moment when the political cost of that mountain was becoming impossible to justify. I believe 6 men died for a briefing slide. I cannot prove it. The log is still classified, but I was there. I made that report. I watched it go up the chain and come back down as an order to advance into a prepared kill zone. And the only piece of documentation that would show exactly what happened in those 90 minutes has been locked away since 1969. Thomas Riley would be 75 years old this year. Daniel Cho would be 74. They never got the chance to be old men sitting in front of a camera telling the truth about what happened to them. So I am doing it for them. The order exists, the log exists. Somewhere in a classified file in Washington, there is a 90-minute window of radio traffic that explains exactly why 6 men walked into a kill zone that had already been identified and reported. I am 79 years old. I have maybe a few good years left. I am asking anyone who hears this, anyone with the ability to push on that file, to push. Not for me, for Thomas, for Carlos, for Frank, for James, for Philip, for Daniel. They deserve to have the truth about those 4 minutes finally pulled out of whatever drawer it has been sitting in for 55 years. That is all I have left to give them.